Some forests breathe like lungs, but Aokigahara feeds like a mouth. Roots twist over volcanic stone, drinking fog and footsteps. Compasses twitch, and voices arrive without bodies, remembered by the moss that keeps them. Paths unravel behind you, like threads chewed by teeth. Those who wander here do not simply vanish. They are taken, repurposed, returned as whispers that know your name, your shame, your ending, and the sound your fear makes when it breaks. Guides leave ribbons to mark the way back, red veins against black bark. The forest resents such stitches. It loosens knots, moves branches, edits trails until the ribbon circles the throat instead of the trees. The air tastes metallic, like prayers swallowed wrong. Listen long enough, and you will hear canopy counting, leaf by leaf, the breaths remaining between your heartbeat and the hush that follows. Not all footsteps in Aokigahara belong to the living. Stories insist the soil here remembers pain better than footprints. Footsteps fade, sorrow roots. The ground receives confessions the way an altar receives ash, absorbing everything, refusing to forget. When the wind passes, it does not rustle, it reads. It reads diary pages, abandoned in wet tents. Names carved into trunks by hands shaking, and apologies that would not exit a mouth. The forest keeps them, recites them, and asks for more to finish sentence. Rescuers say the map fails where the path decides to move. They walk in lines, trailing cord between bodies, pretending rope is stronger than grief. Radios crackle with voices no one sent. Cameras record darkness that breathes and rain that falls upward, returning to clouds as if ashamed. The closer you listen, the louder everything gets down to silence. Not empty here, truly. In this place, silence is the door opening when something steps out. Tonight, 3 people cross the threshold for different reasons and the same destination. One believes a ribbon can bargain with the roots. One thinks the trees only echo, never answer. One wants a story so frightening it will finally feel true. They do not know the forest has counted them and set the table. If you follow, bring no expectations, and do not promise to return. Promises are threads, and threads are delicious to eat. If you remain, remember this warning, and keep the lights on. What follows is not a ghost tour. It is a record of how Aokigahara edits the living until they fit. If your house holds wood, it holds memory, and memory is hungry. Subscribe if you dare to walk further with us, and tell us where you are watching from. The forest takes attendance by names, not numbers, and it never mispronounces the last one. Daisuke was not reckless. He carried water, a flashlight, and above all, a long spool of red ribbon. Guides said it could save lives, a trail home through roots and fog. He tied the first knot tightly at the forest's edge, pulling the ribbon behind him, as though leaving veins across the black bark. Aokigahara swallowed the sound of his steps quickly, until only the faint drag of ribbon marked his presence. The deeper he walked, the heavier the silence became. Birds did not stir, and insects kept no rhythm. His ribbon slithered like an artery, fluttering weakly against trunks. After an hour, Daisuke noticed knots tied he didn't remember making. Loops perfect, deliberate, pointing toward darker trails. He touched one and felt warmth, as if the tree itself had pulled the ribbon tighter, knotting flesh to fabric. His heart stuttered. He pulled harder, but nothing loosened. He pressed forward, convinced fatigue blurred his memory. Yet the knots multiplied. Symbols formed spirals, crosses, shapes he had never learned, but somehow recognized. They appeared faster than he could tie, curling high around branches, stretching far overhead. His careful straight line home had become a lattice, a web. The ribbon wasn't guiding him anymore. It was scripting something into the forest's body, an alphabet of hunger, written with his own hand as its pen. Daisuke turned back, tugging at the spool. It resisted, like a hooked line. The ribbon tightened and dragged against his palm, burning into skin until he dropped it. Still, it pulled. A weight existed at the far end, moving against him, dragging the cord through roots. He followed unwillingly, each knot vibrating as if something breathed through it. He whispered for calm, but the silence returned, laughter damp, muffled, rising from the bark beneath. Exhaustion set in. His flashlight flickered, shadows painting teeth between branches. The ribbon circled back ahead of him, dangling across the path like veins stripped from flesh. He had not walked in circles. The forest had coiled around him. Every direction knotted red. Some strands tightened when he stepped near, constricting, whispering through fibers. His own handwriting etched in thread whispered back, repeating his name until it no longer sounded like a name at all. Daisuke tried cutting the ribbon with a knife. The blade dulled instantly, sparks against fabric as though slicing iron. His panic sharpened. He pulled harder, but the ribbon flexed, alive. Then it recoiled and lashed against his wrist, searing skin. He staggered. The line now wrapped his legs, each step shortening the slack. A loop climbed his back, coiling the spine, rising toward his throat. The forest no longer surrounded him. It wore him. He screamed, muffled by the trees, as his flashlight rolled, scattering light across endless red strands, tightening into symbols on the soil. The loops constricted until his knees collapsed. He clawed desperately, fingernails tearing, but the ribbon pulsed instead of breaking. Each throb crushed his chest tighter, his heartbeat sinking with the knots. Contractions slowed, whispers grew louder. The forest absorbed his rhythm, exhaled with him, then began to breathe for him. Daisuke's vision blurred, stars swimming in suffocating dark. He fought against the ribbon, clawing his neck, but every struggle only tightened further. Footsteps approached, soft, deliberate, yet no figure appeared. The air thickened with iron, copper coating his tongue. Shadows wove swiftly through red strands, carving sentences into the dirt. His name split apart, vowels stretched into screams, consonants shredded. The forest repeated him until it no longer sounded like prayer, but like verdict. The spool at his belt spun without touch. Ribbons spilled endlessly, circling, rising. He realized it would never run out. It wasn't his spool anymore. The forest fed it, threading from veins deeper than roots, staining air with endless red. His arms weakened, rope crushing bone. Something tugged from above, lifting him. His feet left the ground, dangling inches, body trembling. The trees had built their altar, their marionette strung on crimson lifelines. A last thought flickered. If he could cut free, if he could crawl toward the entrance, if ribbon could become trail again. But his knife was gone, and his fingers bled against unbreakable cord. He tried to call his name, but it answered first, whispered from every knot around him. He no longer needed to breathe. The ribbon carried that rhythm now, his lungs reduced to ornaments dangling on invisible threads above dead earth. When rescuers entered days later, they followed faint marks until finding a single clearing. The ribbon lay coiled there, knotted into complex spirals, patterns unfamiliar. No body remained, only bones broken into splinters, arranged inside loops, like offerings. The air stank of copper, though no blood stained the soil. One rescuer reached to touch the fabric, but before his hand grazed it, the knot pulled tight, as though jerking in anticipation of another throat. The spool sat in the center, nearly empty, except for one fresh strand, leading deeper into the forest. It hummed faintly, tugging against unseen weight. They cut it away with metal shears, but the tool rusted instantly, eaten from within. The ribbon seemed to recoil, almost sulking. That night, 2 rescuers dreamed of choking, waking 2 red lines across their necks. One swore he heard someone whisper his name from behind the tent wall. Daisuke's family received nothing but his backpack, returned without explanation. Inside, they found only fragments, a water bottle split open, a flashlight still glowing faintly, and the knife. Bent backward, as though by massive pressure, no ribbon remained. Yet when his sister touched the pack, she discovered a faint red fiber under her fingernail. It slid deeper beneath the skin, threading toward the bone. That night, she dreamed of knots tightening slowly around her lungs. Legends of Aokigahara often speak of sorrow, of those who give themselves to the silence. Daisuke's story lingers different. His steps never ended in despair. They ended in ritual. His ribbon became scripture, and his body became paper. The forest does not simply receive offerings. It writes with them, edits them, binds them into its own memory. Somewhere beneath the roots, his voice knots and unknots, forever whispering the red sentence that replaced his name. Mina never planned to go deep. She wandered Aokigahara after an argument, believing the air itself might calm her. The forest was heavy, but strangely quiet, muffling her thoughts. She followed faint trails, pausing at trees where faded ribbons swayed. When she whispered her name aloud, the air carried it further than expected. It came back to her, softer, reshaped by bark. The syllables dripped like water, returning less like memory and more like invitation. She pressed forward. The ground grew soft, soil damp, clinging to her shoes. Every step answered with faint murmurs. At first, she assumed wind, but Aokigahara held no wind. The sound thickened, converging into words. Her name repeated, delicate, stretched with strange affection. She froze. The forest was empty, yet every trunk leaned closer, shadows pulling inward. Mina called out, pretending courage. Her own voice dissolved, replaced by a dozen whispers, all curling around her. She pressed her palm against bark for balance. The tree was warm. A pulse throbbed beneath her skin, unmistakable, like veins swelling. She jerked her hand away, but the heat lingered, seeping into bone. She tried again. The surface quivered, grain of wood shifting like muscle. Her heart pounded. The whispers grew bolder, laughing, pressing against her ears. She realized the trees weren't listening. They were answering. Every breath she took echoed through their hidden throats. The longer she lingered, the clearer the voices became. They asked her questions she never said aloud. They repeated apologies she had written but burned. They listed regrets her parents never heard. Mina trembled. This was not echo. This was theft. The forest was reading her. She clutched her chest, but the whispers pressed harder, sliding beneath skin, folding into lungs. When she exhaled, her own words left her, carried away, leaving only silence behind. Her flashlight revealed trees, splitting slightly at seams, cracks wide enough to suggest mouths. Within, pale tissue gleamed wet, twitching as though breathing. Resin dripped like saliva. Mina staggered backward, colliding with another trunk. It groaned beneath her weight, exhaling hot, damp air against her neck. She screamed. The forest repeated her scream perfectly, surrounding her. Dozens of voices echoed at once, sharper, eager, turning her terror into a chorus louder than her living throat. The cracks widened. Not mouths, faces, unfinished, pressed against bark. Lips without eyes, jaws without skin, twitching as though fighting to emerge. The whispers sharpened into pleading. They begged her to let them out. Mina collapsed, crawling away. But every tree pulsed in rhythm, like veins around her. The ground itself trembled with their hunger. She pressed her hands over her ears, but the voices seeped inside, vibrating skull, unspooling sanity, thread by thread, knot by knot. Mina fled blindly. Trails twisted back, returning her to the same clearing. Trees encircled her, every trunk bearing faces straining outward. One cracked further, exposing an eye, milky and wet, rolling toward her. It blinked. The sound was louder than thunder. She screamed again, but the forest stole her voice instantly, storing it within the eye. It laughed back, mimicking her tone. Mina realized, too late, every scream in Aokigahara belonged not to people, but trees. Her legs failed, forcing her to crawl toward a clearing where moonlight pierced branches. Relief flickered in, till she noticed shapes swaying gently from trunks. Not branches, not vines, but limbs. Arms stretched, fingers curled, torsos half swallowed by bark. Mouths opened silently, trapped mid-breath, shifting faintly as if reaching for her. Mina shrieked. Their mouths opened wider, but no sound came. Instead, the forest screamed for them, voices unified, tearing the night apart. She begged aloud for them to stop, to release her. The forest answered kindly, softly, "We only keep what's given." Mina collapsed against a tree, exhausted, hands bleeding from crawling. The bark flexed beneath her palms, splitting slightly. She pulled away, but strands of flesh clung to her skin, stretching like glue. The tree pulled tighter, dragging her hand back. The whispers promised comfort. She screamed again, voice swallowed instantly, leaving only forest's reply. The bark opened further, exposing wet hollows beneath. Mina's hands sank. Heat enveloped her arm, pulling deeper. She kicked, clawed, shrieking as bark devoured her elbow. The wood pulsed, veins flexing, dragging her shoulder next. She fought violently, but roots wrapped her ankles, spreading cracks across soil, drawing her down. The voices sang her name in unison. Every syllable was perfect. They no longer begged, they celebrated, weaving her name into their endless hymn. By morning, hikers reported screams, echoing faintly from deeper within. Rescue teams entered cautiously, tying cords between them. They followed signs of struggle, broken branches, streaks of fabric, a dropped shoe. The trail ended at a tree split wide, resin glistening, fresh. Within, something faintly pulsed. The rescuers swore they saw an eye roll beneath the wood, but when touched, it was firm bark. They marked the location, returned empty-handed, pretending nothing unusual occurred. Days later, Mina's bag was found near the entrance, containing notes she had written. Pages detailed voices that grew louder each hour, faces within trees, and the hunger beneath bark. The last line read, "They do not let you leave because they are not finished with you. They finish inside you." Handwriting smeared mid-sentence, as if dragged away. The page stank faintly of resin, sticky enough to glue fingers together when unfolded. Mina's parents received her belongings with hesitation. Her mother burned a notebook, hoping to erase what it carried. But smoke rose with her daughter's voice, whispering her name through flames. Neighbors claimed to hear cries echoing inside the chimney for nights afterward. Her father swore trees near their home leaned closer each evening, branches rattling without wind, whispering apologies Mina once wrote. They stayed indoors after dusk, pretending walls could restrain the forest's reach. Aokigahara collects more than footsteps. It harvests words, regrets, screams. Mina's body was never returned. Yet hikers whisper of a young woman kneeling against a tree, half her face pressed into bark. Her lips move faintly, but no sound escapes. Instead, nearby trunks whisper her name endlessly, carrying her unfinished apologies. The forest does not eat quickly. It digests slowly, storing fragments until whole. Mina became sentence. Sentence became hymn. And hymn still grows louder. Shinji wanted proof. Urban explorers sought evidence, and Aokigahara promised fame. He carried 2 cameras, spare batteries, and nerves sharpened by arrogance. Entering at dusk, he followed faint trails until a sagging tent appeared among roots. Its fabric was damp, stained, older than seasons. Inside were a half-empty bottle, blankets stiff with mildew, and a notebook swollen by moisture. The tent seemed abandoned, but silence pressed close as Shinji began to film. He opened the notebook slowly. The first pages described daily struggles, hunger, thirst, uncertainty. Then the tone shifted. Notes grew frantic, handwriting looping as it described figures seen at night. The writer claimed faceless shadows pressed closer each evening, bending trees around the tent. They listened, breathed, even lay beside him, weight crushing his chest until sleep smothered. Shinji hesitated, unsettled, though adrenaline pushed him on. He filmed the pages, recording every word. The entries worsened. Drawings filled margins, human silhouettes with blurred heads, limbs bent wrong. One sketch showed a figure crouched above the sleeper, mouth stretched wider than skull allowed. Final dated entry trembled. They do not leave when I close my eyes. They move inside them. I am no longer alone. Shinji exhaled sharply. His lens shook. He whispered, "Fake," yet his voice quivered. He kept filming, but already shadows thickened beyond his light. That night, Shinji camped near the tent, determined to capture something. His second camera pointed toward trees, recording shadows. Hours bled. At midnight, the forest stirred. Leaves rustled, though no wind moved. The lens fogged slightly, as if the forest exhaled. Reviewing footage, Shinji saw faint outlines beyond light, faceless and still. He spun around. Nothing, only trunks. His nervous laugh cracked thin, brittle. The notebook waited, pages faintly vibrating in the dark. Shinji dreamed of suffocation. He woke, gasping, convinced something lay across him. His camera had tilted, lens aimed upward. Frame showed roof of tent, yet darker shadows rippled above, silhouettes shifting as though many leaned over him. He reached upward instinctively, but touched nothing. Breath frosted air, though night was warm. He whispered, "Who's there?" The forest answered by replaying his words back. Identical tone, identical hesitation, as if his voice now belonged to something else. Pages turned on their own. Shinji froze, watching notebook flutter, though no breeze stirred. A new sentence appeared faintly, ink seeping from damp fibers. "Do not film us." His camera light dimmed instantly. Screen buzzed, static curling across frame. He slammed it off, heart hammering. Silence returned, thick, oppressive. But the notebook still pulsed faintly, like a living organ. He pushed it away, but drops of moisture slid from cover, staining his fingers red-brown. He fled the tent, dragging equipment, but ribbon trails led only back. He circled until the sagging canvas appeared again, notebook still waiting. Breath ragged, Shinji entered, fury masking fear. He shouted, "If something is here, show yourself." Footage stuttered. Shapes appeared tall, pale, faces blank where features should be. They stood motionless. Shinji blinked. Nothing remained. Yet video replay revealed them still, each frame showing the figures closer. He dropped the camera, but the lens kept recording, angle skewed across floor. Shadows slid through frames slowly, stretching unnaturally long. They leaned against tent walls, fabric pressing inward with indentations like hands and foreheads. Whispers swelled, not words but multiplied breath. His scream cracked, barely audible under hiss. The notebook snapped shut, battery drained at once. Only red light blinked weakly, capturing groans, scratches, and Shinji sobbing broken prayers. Morning never came. The forest stayed locked in night, moon frozen overhead. Shinji crawled to the tent's entrance, but the zipper stuck. Outside silhouettes waited. Dozens stood shoulder to shoulder, blank faces tilted toward him. Their stillness crushed thought. He shook violently, tearing zipper down. Darkness beyond looked thicker than canvas itself. He pushed through only to emerge inside again, notebook on lap. A new entry read in his hand. "Shinji is ours. We will not share." Rescuers searched weeks later. They found the tent collapsed, fabric shredded. Inside lay a camera, its lens shattered, but memory card intact. Reviewing footage chilled them. Shinji pacing, whispering, begging unseen figures. Then frames warped. Dozens of faceless shadows crowded the tent, closer with each second. The final clip ended with Shinji screaming, dragged across ground, camera tumbling. Audio caught his breath cut short. Shadows lingered faintly, perfectly still, watching the lens. His belongings were returned to family. Within, authorities included notebooks sealed in plastic. Shinji's brother opened it, curious. Pages were damp, ink blurred, but new entries existed, clearly written after Shinji disappeared. They described the brother's own bedroom, its layout, the chair near window, the poster above desk. The final entry read, "He will sit reading this soon. We will enter then." That night, the brother dreamed of weight pressing across chest. Weeks passed, and the brother vanished. Neighbors reported strange sounds in the apartment, dragging feet, overlapping breaths. Police found the notebook open on the floor. Its last entry read, "We have taken both voices. The family is incomplete." It ended mid-sentence, ink smeared upward. Officers dismissed it as a prank, but one swore the notebook pulsed faintly when touched, warmth seeping through gloves. The evidence locker later leaked moisture, pages swelling unnaturally. Explorers who later visited the site reported strange phenomena. Photographs blurred, showing multiple silhouettes even when only one person posed. Video files corrupted instantly, replaying muffled breathing instead. Some found red stains on their hands after touching soil near the collapsed tent. Others swore they heard scratching inside backpacks at night, as if the notebook returned wherever they camped. They burned equipment, but rumors say the diary still waits for a new writer. Aokigahara does not erase, it edits. Shinji sought proof, but became proof himself. Stitched into narrative the forest demanded. His words outlasted his body, ink crawling across pages even now. The diary is not artifact, but invitation, a blank mouth, waiting for voice. Those who open it discover sentences already written in their hand, and when night falls, the forest repeats them, faceless witnesses pressing closer, demanding bodies to fit stories left unfinished. Aokigahara swallows more than footsteps. It eats intentions, bending them into rituals never meant to exist. Daisuke's ribbons became scripture, Mina's voice a hymn, Shinji's diary, an invitation. Each sought control navigation, proof, meaning, but the forest teaches submission. Paths lead inward, voices multiply, pages write themselves. Those who vanish are not forgotten. They are remembered too well, rewritten line by line, until names dissolve into echo without end. Rescuers recover belongings, never the essence left behind. Ribbons knot after midnight. Trees pulse with hidden eyes. Diaries breathe under rotting canvas. Locals whisper warnings, but curiosity defies tradition. Each traveler believes they'll return, proof in hand. Instead, they return unfinished absence, heavier than bones. Aokigahara does not hunger for corpses, it hungers for continuations. Every vanished soul feeds its archive, echoing in silence that soon begins. So, if you ever walk near that silent sea of trees, do not bring ribbon, diaries, or apologies you cannot finish. The forest counts every promise, every breath, and edits without mercy. Aokigahara is not haunted, it is haunting. It waits for readers, listeners, believers. And tonight, you've listened long enough. Subscribe if you dare, and tell us where you are watching from, because names are easy to whisper, and the forest never forgets.